Everybody, welcome back to another Wednesday, and you know what it is. It's a W Wednesday, a winning Wednesday here at Heat Ratio Sports with us, Fourth and Go, Dave Gleckner. That's Marc Tomasini. Put up the dubs because the Phils had a big one today, getting the series win against the Atlanta Braves. We'll get into that. Whole lot more. Eagles open training camp. Sixers officially making James Harden, the contract official, I should say.
Right.
And we'll talk about all that and much more. But Marc, how you doing, my man?
What up? What up? It's a winning Wednesday. You know, my softball team got a playoff win tonight. It was, we literally we beat the worst team in the league a couple times this year, but that's it. But we actually beat one of our tough competitors.
Ah, nice.
Big comeback win. So it's a winning
Cash
Wednesday
league?
for sure.
No.
What do we want to
Trophies
say?
or
Church league.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So what's that? Put you in the semis?
Well, it's double elimination, so now we have at least 2 more games.
Ah, I like it. So you could see them again.
We could. Yeah.
Good. You had your ace throwing tonight, so
yeah.
I'm
the stud left fielder, so that's all that matters.
That's all that matters, man. Good. Cheers it up. Bunch of W's on the board tonight. We'll start with the Philadelphia Phillies. Coming off a really ugly weekend at Citizens Bank Park, looking like the All-Star break might have done something to the momentum of the team. Cubs come in and just, suck the life out of the Phillies, get a sweep, beat some of our better pitchers too. They won a game where Zach started. What was interesting to me, is that the Phillies didn't have Nola slated coming out of the All-Star break, and then didn't even have him go the first game of this Atlanta series, waited till last night, which is a game I actually went to, and he didn't look sharp. Yeah. And Rob Thompson said that he was trying to preserve him for the rest of the season. That's why he was holding him off. I'm not sure how 1 or 2 extra days of rest after an All-Star break preserves anybody. I think they might have mismanaged that one, but you get back today, you get Gibson actually throwing a really good game, and the Phillies jumping on Morton, but more importantly, jumping on the mistakes of the Braves. Morton had a throwing error, Cano had a bad fielding error, and the Phillies made him pay. So, we can get into all that, but my first observation is the sweep felt awful, but this series win took that taste away. Even though it's a 2-4 homestand, getting 2 out of 3 versus Atlanta gives me a lot of energy going into Pittsburgh this weekend.
It absolutely has. So, you think about it, there's so much going on around the league. Like with the one, we have the tiebreaker over the Cardinals. I think we have a couple tiebreakers, but the fact that the Cardinals are not playing well right now, they're slumping. So, look, the Phillies can be very frustrating. We all know this. Obviously, they haven't been to the playoffs in 11 years. So it makes it tough when you finally think that you've put the team together. And, there's just these shortcomings. Yes, the first half of the season was a bust. So now this is where you're supposed to take advantage. And I think they've let some things go. Even in the Thompson era so far, they've had a couple, games where, they really just should have gotten the job done. And there's no way you should have been swept by the Cubs. Really, you should have taken 2 of 3. And you just, didn't jump on. But the thing is, there's a lot of parity right now, I think, in the NL wild card race. And so, yes, the sweep by the Cubs hurts, but it's your division rival. And really, in my opinion, even though the Mets just swept the Yankees, I think the Braves actually have been the better team. But the Mets are dealing with injuries. Don't get me wrong, the Mets are really good. Yeah. But the way that the Braves have been playing, I really think that they have a chance to win the division. I don't know if the Mets can sustain, but to take 2 of 3 from them, it's humongous. It is a momentum shaker. Like you said, and what's frustrating, another thing that's frustrating about it, you went into the All-Star break on a 3-game sweep of the Marlins, who always give you fits when you have been on paper better than them. And so you finally did that. And you think you take 2 of 3 from the Cubs, you take 2 of 3 from the Braves. You're sitting pretty in the second wild card slot. But you know what? It's going to be it's going to be in flux. This team is not consistent. We'll see what they do at the deadline, but you're just not going to get consistency at this point.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. They are going to battle through some ups and downs, some ebbs and flows, as we all like to call it. But, when you don't hit Justin Steele, when you don't hit Drew Smiley, some of the, weaker arms that you're seeing from the Cubs, it does concern me. And then, yes, they get that win on Monday night versus Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But it took a miracle. And what I mean by that is Bryson Stott hitting a 3-run home run off, I think it was Minter. He had only allowed one home run in his career to a lefty one time in 350 some at bats. And Stott just gets on one. And it was a great hit, but
Stott shot.
But you got to feel a little lucky there. And then even today, like I said, it's not your typical string a lot of things together here. Yes, they had a 5-run inning. But what I did like, and what I will look at with the Phillies, and I think, Crocker was kind of talking about it a little bit on the broadcast, is he's very excited about the way the Phillies are running the bases. Today, they had a double steal by Herrera and Hoskins, which put them in scoring position, and JT gets a single up the middle and knocks them both in. They're being aggressive. JT actually tried to steal on the next pitch as soon as he was on base, but it was a foul ball. There's a lot I do kind of agree with them, and I do see that energy, I should say, that this team is trying to manufacture more, because they are, when you don't have Castellanos hitting, when you don't have some of the key components hitting, and you're just relying on Schwarber or Hoskins, and you're going to have to manufacture. So that it was an interesting point, and I thought it was it's good to see Rob Thompson trying to adjust to the game and to what he has. You've seen it with his lineup tinkering too, right?
Yeah,
Vealing leading off, he's trying some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get creative. And I think, I know they asked him the question after last night's game. They said, was it just a matchup thing, or are you trying to adjust by stealing more? And he said, well, of course it's a matchup thing. I think, last night the guy had a slower delivery. So obviously you're going to take advantage of that. Like Nola, you can take advantage of Nola because he has a slow delivery. That's part of it. But, that's the thing. Like, baseball in general has gotten so far away from small ball. And I think it's not the funnest. It's obviously you want to see home runs left and right, but it's not going to happen all the time. It's just not going to happen all the time. They've given pitchers back a little advantage by moving them up a little bit. It's a lot of strikeouts, a lot of home runs, a lot of walks. But nothing more. You don't see guys hitting running anymore. So that's something. Then the thing is, the Phillies live and die by the home run ball.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to be like that, you got to take advantage of the times that you get on base and being aggressive and stealing. I mean, at this point, what do you have to lose? You need to solidify yourself and give yourself an identity, and you need to play hard and you need to hustle, because we've seen what happens when the bats aren't hitting, when they're not hitting home runs. Forget about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. So, look, good stuff going out to Pittsburgh, 4-game series. You're going to see Wheeler. You're going to see Nola. Suarez had an okay game. I'll see. I guess they're going to go back to Falter. We'll see.
Right.
But
I know that's a tough one. Just having to throw him out there every fifth day.
It stinks.
It's a bad bullpen day when they have to do that. But
it is. And I mean,
it's your typical. It's Falter. It's Nick Nelson.
He just can't survive this way. They got some really nice arms down in the minors. Some also, they're calling them untouchables right now, like Micah Bell, Andrew Painter.
But so there is Class A, like they're pretty much Class A guys.
You got some low AA, but high Class A ball. But I heard Dombrowski come out, and that's where we were transitioning next. And he's starting to talk about the trade deadline. The next time we're on this show, the trade deadline will just about have come and passed. I think it's August 2nd, right?
Yes, August.
So
2nd.
August 2nd falls
Tuesday, right?
Yeah, obviously looking ahead, it's Tuesday, so we'll be back on Wednesday. So we'll have some good breakdown of that then. But looking forward here, Dombrowski came on and said, hey, if the price is right, I'll go pay for a guy that's a game changer. I am trying to make the playoffs. And he did mention some of the younger guys. He's a guy that he's not scared to skip AAA is kind of what he said. So next year, we won't see these guys this year. They're going to have to find some.
They're still way too raw.
Yeah, but what it means to me was, and why he brought up those names, and I thought that was interesting, was I'm not going out necessarily and getting a guy that I'm going to pay for 2, 3, 4 years when I think I got some guys down there. I'm going to pay for short-term rentals because they don't want to give up, high price tag. So I thought that was interesting. And I wanted to get your take on, I really enjoyed someone being honest and open and actually name dropping and sounding intelligent about baseball. So I thought that Dombrowski putting his chips on the table in front of him and knowing he's done this well with other teams before, I thought it was a good thing and a good thing for the Phillies clubhouse too.
Yeah, Thompson's out there, like they asked him about it, and I think it was Eskin who was like, "Oh, he's intimidated. He won't say anything. He's afraid of hurt these guys' feelings." Like he's an interim manager. He's not the one making those decisions. His job is to just whatever lineup he's given or whatever players he's given, he's got to fit them in. So I think Dombrowski has a good track record of being able to fix things and put them in the right position. So this is what they're paying him for this week coming up. They did it in the offseason. Now this is just as important as the offseason. It's just as important.
So there's a few things out there that I'm looking at that I'm enticed by. I'm going to drop the first one for you where I would really love to see this happen, and it is Ian Happ from the Chicago Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would solve a lot of issues there in center field. The guy is 27, under control for about one more year, I think, after this. So you get a year and a half, maybe 2.5 of service before he hits the market. I think he's batting like almost 290. Really cut down his strikeouts. Played with Schwarber before. That's always a bonus. Everybody kind of gravitates towards Schwarber, even though it's only his first year here. I'm done, and I've been done, and I know you have with the Odubel stuff. Listen, if the guy shows up and you put him in once every 6 days, I can live with it.
Right.
But we got to find something. And for me, it's still offense. And the big reason that is because of the struggles of Castellanos. He's pretty much a liability right now. And it's a shame, but they need to fix this fast. They need to try and make the playoffs, and hopefully he can get it right by September. And by doing that, I think it's bat first. I lean towards starting pitcher next, but that's the one name I want to see. I'm curious if you have any others out there.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, like Xander Bogaerts was somebody, but I just saw a report that said that Devers and Bogaerts weren't being shopped by Boston. So that
he has to. I'm stunned because I think Bogaerts is a free agent this year.
Right. They said they're not, but we'll see.
Yeah.
What happens. That could always change. There's the Benintendies of the world, but I haven't really heard much traction with that as of late.
Yeah, he's available.
He's being thrown around.
Yeah, I like him. I heard the Yankees might look, but any team in the AL is going to be tough to take Benintendi because he's not vaccinated. And if you got to go play in Toronto, in the playoffs, that's a factor you got to consider.
Yeah, I mean that's just where we're at right now with this.
Yeah. How about any arms? Are you hearing any arms that you might be interested in?
I haven't heard anything about arms, but
I mean,
I honestly, I do agree. Before you get to that, I do agree with you. I mean, here's what I was a little frustrated about, and you and I talked about this at the time in regards to, addressing center fielder. We were talking. Our eyes were big for Kiermaier. We knew he's not a great bat, but what he does in the field makes up for it. And they just decided we're just going to leave our center field the way it is. I get it. You have to give up something to get there. But I think it's just a shortcoming of theirs going into the season, just being like, we don't really have a center fielder. I know in spring training we saw a little flash of Moniak, but and the thing is he can't hit lefties. He's unfortunately, I think we might be at the end of the road with him, and I really wanted him to be decent.
He's raking in AAA again.
But that's what he does, and then he comes up here and he can't even touch anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think the injuries set him back.
I hope I'm wrong because I was a huge fan of his, but we'll see on that. But next is starting pitching. That's Yeah.
It is.
Were
I
there
mean,
any
because
arms?
the news of Eflin maybe being out, I mean, there's potential he could be out the rest of the season.
There he
He's
really
got
could.
some tendonitis, I think, right around the patella area. That concerns me. It's not like I've ever been like this huge Eflin guy, but he's definitely a serviceable 3 or 4. Yeah,
There's a reason why they extended him.
yeah, and there's a reason why I don't want to keep seeing Falter or anyone else rolling that middle spot because he's not Eflin. Eflin can give you some solid innings and even some really good performances at times. I think his home ERA is somewhere in the 2 areas. So they got to find an answer there. They got lucky last year. And lucky might be a strong word, but being able to find a guy like Gibson last year, I don't really turned out well. I mean, you gave away Spencer Howard, which right now doesn't look like any big loss.
I think his ERA is like 6.
It is up there. He's pitching again tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
But
he hasn't done anything special over there. He left here and he, lambasted the Phillies and said, "Oh, they prevented me from doing this." Well, you're pitching in Texas in a no pressure situation.
Yep.
You're giving up, 5-6 runs a games. So
no, so it's been they were able to find a piece last year. I hope they find a piece similar to that. I haven't heard many names, I'll be honest, on the pitching market yet. I think the big one's Luis Castillo. Obviously, that'll be someone that sets the price.
What's his face from Oakland?
Montas.
Montas. But the Yankees are in on both of those guys,
and they should be.
Montas, and it's probably going to be somebody who can afford to do something like that. I just don't know if the Phillies have enough to give up to get one of those guys.
And if they do, it
would be a mistake.
It's too much.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. For once, they're building somewhat of a farm system.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm not right. Even though Castillo, I mean, he's really good. Had another solid game tonight. One against the Marlins, 8 Ks, 7 innings, 3 earned runs. I think he's on a roll now, 4 straight games with about 8+ Ks. I mean, he's pitching well. Had an all-star game. Came in 1 inning, 2 Ks, no earned runs. So he is good. He's not like the Cliff Lees. I just feel like anymore that kind of name's not out.
Pitchers at the deadline.
Yeah, it's just not there.
Right. Like before, like the trends have changed because, like, I mean, I actually now that I think about it, it's funny you mentioned Cliff Lee. It still would take a lot to get this guy, but Shane Bieber is he's being offered up. But they said it would take a lot to get him, but that's interesting. Former Cy Young.
Yeah, and a guy, I mean, the Guardians are only in second place out there, but their team I don't think really can sustain and keep up with the Twins in the second half. So I could see that. I mean, they are a team that Lindor go, so
yeah.
I don't know. I like Bieber. He is definitely. I decline's probably a strong word, but since his Cy Young year, he has started to come back a little bit.
Right. You know that it's you're at least going to get a serviceable 2-3.
Yep.
2-3, depending on how Nola's pitching.
Yeah. It'll be interesting though. There were a couple arms out in there that were being tossed around for bullpen help. They could still use a little bullpen help, but again, one of those areas, they're probably not as bad off as they have been in years past with the bullpen.
It's funny we're at this point, but yes.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, that's the Phillies. We'll get back on the air very soon and talk about what does happen at the trade deadline, what did happen, I should say, and then what happened this weekend out in Pittsburgh. So it'll be great. It's Phillies baseball. It's exciting. Still holding on right on that edge of that second wild card spot, half game out. So or third wild card. So it's good times, good stuff, good baseball, and get that momentum back. And that was fun today. So let's talk about the big green team that kind of matches the logo at the bottom of this show today. That's your Philadelphia Eagles opening training camp yesterday at the NovaCare Complex. Lots of good mojo going on, lots of good stuff. People feeling it. I feel it too. I'm hoping not to get sucked in like a dream team era stuff, but I can tell you that there's a good buzz, and I think it's for good reasons around this team. And you're starting to see. We saw some clips of Jalen Hurts. Obviously, you only see some good things, but there's a lot of good things swirling around the Eagles right now. And I think, for them to get the Cam and get ready and get going in Sirianni's second year is good. And the one thing we're hearing out of there is Sirianni's, it sounds like he's giving up play calling duties.
Right.
Do I believe it? We'll see. But a little maturity from the coach, which I've been desiring to see.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Coaches are so reluctant to give up play calling duties. I get it. Like, it's probably an ego thing. You want to be the guy that puts it all together. But some of the guys who succeed give up play calling and are not worried about, like Mike Tomlin, for example. He doesn't call plays.
But he was defensive coach, wasn't he?
I thought his thing was that he doesn't call plays.
No, he doesn't. But I'm just saying because
was he a defensive coach?
I thought he was, but I could be wrong.
Well, guys, we're talking about. I know we're in football, but just shot down my thought. Benintendi is a Yankee for 3 minor leaguers.
It did happen.
ESPN. Yeah. As we talk about it.
Yeah, not too surprising. That was the team that he was targeted towards. I mean, they've been really struggling with Aaron Hicks this year, not getting a lot of production out of him. I think he was like, in the bottom 10 in baseball, 10% in extra base hits. So they need to do a little something. So, especially after now they've lost 2 in a row to the Mets. So I guess they pulled that one pretty quick.
Right. It getting swept by the Mets. They're just like, we need to go back to the drawing board. So anyway, I digress on that. So we were at, I thought that Tomlin was a play calling coach or a former play calling coach. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know he doesn't have the duties. But the thing is, like, I get it. You want to call plays, but if you're like a guy like him, he's a guy who rallies the team up and he needs to be more involved in it, especially early on. If you have sustained success, then I could see you going back to play calling. But see, like, what's going to hurt 1 year if you're not? Honestly, it's less blood on your hands if you don't turn out well.
It really is, and it gives you a scapegoat, and culpability and accountability can also be transferred a little bit away from you. So no, but it was just something that, I think that's going to be my biggest focus over the next few weeks here in training camp is to see how Sirianni is progressing in year 2, because, we liked a little bit of what he was saying. We also knew he was pandering. We liked what he was doing, and then he, we'd scratch our heads a little bit, and then he'd listen to the media and run the ball more. And then, it was a little bit of it was a cyclic year, but one where you could see some buildings of someone who could potentially be a very good NFL head coach. Could. I still have my doubts about, a lot of stuff he says and does, but then that's why my eyes on him, because when you get a team that you're handed this level of talent, one that a lot of outsiders are now looking at as a team that is more talented than the Dallas Cowboys, maybe now looking at the potential favorite to win the division, 9.5 wins in Vegas. So you're looking at a 10-win team. I think all things kind of center in on the head coach and quarterback when that happens, because they're the ones that are going to have to bear the pressure, and they're the ones that are going to have to come through. So my eyes are going to be on Sirianni early on in this camp.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to see progression in him for sure. I think there's no doubt about it. You need to see where this baseball team is, or baseball, sorry. Where this football team is. But at the end of the day, regardless of him, they're going to live and die by Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, everything is surrounded around the quarterback, like whether you like it or not. Like, I do agree with you. I do want to see him take that step forward as a coach. But you can only go so far as your quarterback's going to take you. But, we've said this over and over again. Howie did the right things. He put a whole team around, like, that. He gave them the best possible opportunity to, win by making that roster better. And like you alluded to, they have a better roster on paper to me than the Dallas Cowboys. It's just right now the advantage is the quarterback.
Yep. Well,
It's not a huge margin, but I think the defense has gotten a lot better. And Dallas has some playmakers on defense, but I don't think they're a complete defense. But everything is the quarterback. That's it. At the end of the day, it's the quarterback, and that's where I'm at. And a lot of people are getting excited. I'm excited that they're getting to it, but also they have a very passive approach because they are off tomorrow. They're barely working, so I'm not a huge fan of the way that they do it. I think they have too much time off. I don't think they really get in enough. Like, obviously you don't want to see injuries, but I think they need to work. That would be my criticism.
yeah.
But, we'll see if it works or not. I just don't want them to come out flat against Detroit. Like, I think it'll be one of those, they play awful and then they finally win, like at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But that's what it could be if they're not really ready, because you know how serious they take preseason. They don't. So I would have to say I'm a little restrained. I'm a little hesitant to jump in until I see it.
Yeah. No, I would. So there's another area that I'm staring at, and it's one that's started to catch a little bit of wind per se. It's one area that I guess I would say we've been weaker in years past, but now could be a strength, and that's the wide receiver position. Obviously, AJ Brown, and then you add Devontae Smith. You got a 1-2 that's just packed. I think you're pretty certain a guy like Quez is going to make the team, and Zach Pascal from the receiver they brought over from the Colts. So that's 4 in the room. I mean, you got guys like Jalen Reagor that really out to prove it. Hightower, Greg Ward, and then there's some talks about this guy Britton Covey, who has some ability to really catching eyes. And then we got Devin Allen, and is he the track star?
He's the track star, yeah.
Yeah. So you got
it's a full room. I mean, look,
I think we can say the 4 will make it, and then
I hope they're doing their due diligence on if there's still a market for Reagor out there, because I don't think if they're being what's the word, objective about him,
they probably won't be, but yeah,
right, because you know how he does. Howie doesn't give up on his first rounders unless he's going to make a steal in a trade, and he can't admit his mistakes. And he's going to take a spot from a lot of people probably don't agree with me, but Greg Ward is my guy. I think I think he's an all-around player. I mean, I think it's also good when you have a guy that used to be a quarterback that knows the routes. He runs good routes. He's where the ball needs to be. Like, he puts himself in those positions. Like, you go back and you look at the Greg Ward touchdown catch. I think it was Carson, his last good year here in 19. Was that the one? Was it Carson? Was it Carson's team when he threw in the corner of the end zone?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Ward he's not the flashiest receiver. He'll never be a great receiver, but he gets the ball when he needs to. Like, he does just enough. He's done way more than Reagor's ever done. Ward isn't undrafted because he, came out as a quarterback but switched to a receiver. Again, he's not going to be elite. He's a good 4th receiver, but that's a guy who I would take right now over Reagor. I would be fine cutting Reagor and just dealing with it. It's like $1.2 million you lose out on.
I could see a world where you keep Reagor and Ward. I could see that. Like I said, the 4 I gave you, I think, are in. I think you can carry 6 here pretty healthy. You might be able to get away with a 7th if you're going to, maybe even potentially like one of the younger guys we talked about, able to put him on your practice squad and not get him taken. So it'll be interesting. But I think the guy that you mentioned, Reagor, they said he looks good. I get it. That's what you're going to hear. And every time I hear that, I know he really is, that's pomp and stance from Howie.
Last year, he did that against the Patriots in scrimmage where he spun around, pirouetted, and caught the ball with one hand. I mean, we all thought it was regular season, and that didn't happen.
It's the true definition of fake news to me. I
Right.
still can't get over some of the games when the long ball hit them in the face mask. It's, but I can still see a world where he makes this team. It'll be interesting though
Yeah.
to see what they do with John Hightower, because
Yeah.
Hightower was drafted the same year as Rager or the year after?
No, I thought it was the year before.
Okay, he's Boise State. I remember. I'm pretty
Right.
sure.
Yeah, it was
he
Hightower.
might
There
be-
was another one. The
He's
same
same
year as
year.
Quez.
Yeah.
Yes, they were both the year before. I
Okay.
think they were 19.
Okay. Yeah. So they were the year of JJ or Thega Whiteside then.
I'm trying to think, but then who did we take first? Who did we take in the first round that year?
The JJ year?
Yeah. We took Miles Sanders, JJ. I'm trying to think of who we took in the first round. I don't think that was the same year.
That was Dillard, right?
Maybe.
I think
I don't know. Now I'm all confused.
Well, let's have fun with this with our memory.
Yeah.
So last year, obviously, was a year that 2022 draft. So
Jordan Davis, AJ
yeah,
Brown.
Right, and then 2021 is Devontae Smith. 2020 is Rager.
Right, that was Rager, then Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts was later, and yeah, so 2019, I think it might be Dillard.
That might have been Dillard, then Miles Sanders, then JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if it was maybe 18. Have
Hightower hasn't been here that long. I feel like Hightower is. I'm telling you, I just have this feeling he's Rager's year. I'm now. I have to.
They would have drafted 3 receivers.
They were, because they were just terrible. Because Quez was Quez West Virginia.
Trying to think. No, wait.
Yes, 2020.
Southern Missouri.
Hightower was 2020. So
where is one of them was Southern Missouri?
Yeah, yeah. He was 2020, so he was with the Rager year.
Oh wow, they drafted 3 receivers in like the first 6 rounds, I think.
Yeah, he was like 5th round, so he wasn't.
Yeah. Was Quez 3rd round?
Quez ended up being. He's actually 6th.
Oh, Quez was the 6th rounder.
Yeah, and Hightower's the 5th.
Okay.
Yep. And Southern Miss. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yep. Right on. Boise State.
Boise State was Hightower, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we're right there. That was fun.
Okay, wow. Okay, that was.
But Dillard was number 1 in 19. So yeah. I mean, we're right there.
Yeah.
And you're right. Sanders then are at Thega Whiteside. Both 2 second-round picks that year. Now, JJ's still hanging around as a tight end, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I don't know if he's going to last long, but I heard a good point earlier today. He's been in the league because the tight end room is full. He's been in the league. He has special teams. He has receiver and he has tight end. So he's somebody that they could throw in on situations. Now, again, he doesn't really excel at anything. So, I don't know how valuable he's going to be, but sometimes they like a guy who that might be their excuse for keeping him on the team over somebody else. But again, with the tight end room, obviously you have Goddard. You have who is it, Nick Stoll or Jack Stoll?
Jack Stoll and Calcaterra, the guy that got out of
and that was who I was going to say.
He Kansas or SMU? SMU, I think.
SMU, and
then he was like,
and then Oklahoma? He got back in. Yeah, he dropped out and then came back in, and he ended up coming back, but they say he's looking good.
Yeah, I love having 2 good tight ends. Love it.
Right. So I think JJ probably is on his way out. I mean, it's a last-ditch effort to try and save themselves from losing a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about a guy like Stoll, but I mean they still got Richard Rodgers laying around too. I can't see Arthega Whiteside beating any of those guys out.
I think they put Richard Rodgers on the PUP list or something like that. Like he's kind of now on the shelf, but
true.
But he's somebody that they always bring back, bring back.
Yeah. Yeah, just experience again, and the
Yeah.
guy you can trust. But yeah, I think some of those battles are going to be interesting. The running back room too. I
That's
I wanted to throw this one at you because I know you're a big fan of Miles Sanders, but you're also a big fan of a couple other guys in that backfield.
I'm a big fan of Kenny Gainwell.
Yep.
Who isn't a big fan of Kenny Gainwell? You and I liked him before the draft,
Yeah, Memphis.
and it just kind of worked out that he was there in the 5th round.
And bringing back Boston Scott, I thought was a really nice move. A guy you can always count on. And
Yeah.
Kenny Brooks is really interesting to me because, as you probably know, and a lot of you that watch me on other things, I'm a huge college football guy. And
Right.
this Kenny Brooks was a stud for Oklahoma. No, the issue with Kenny is he's a little upright, a little tall. So that to me, that running style exposes the ball a little more too. So but it'll be interesting. He can catch the ball. He's physical. He runs downhill. So he's a good change of pace. He's like, in a way, he's what you wanted out of Jordan Howard. But
Mhm.
obviously a kid that's 21, 22, Vice Howard.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think they got a nice little backfield there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Miles Sanders is the odd man out after this season. I still think they'll try and ride what they can out of him now.
Yeah.
And phase Kenny in more. But Kenny's got to hold on to the ball too. I think that was one of the other things he had a little difficulty doing.
Yeah, but I think he's a good playmaker. I think when
Oh, he's great.
he gets more opportunities. Like you saw him like even in that Atlanta game. Like he's a rookie and he really almost had 2 touchdowns that
Yeah.
game. I think one got called back on a dumb penalty by Lane Johnson, but besides that, I mean, he looked like he was ready for the moment, and I think that he's a guy that can do it. I mean, we've
I
seen
do.
a stretch of Memphis running backs who have managed to be successful in the NFL. I mean, I know they brought in Gainwell to be more of a scat back, kind of do things out, but he might be a guy who has the chance to do it all. He's not going to be a star, but I think he's going to be good, and I think he's going to be serviceable. And I think he's going to be what this team needs.
Would you
More than Sanders.
Would you dare to draft him ahead of Miles Sanders in your fantasy drafts coming up this year? Or is it that too early to?
It's too early. It's too early. We're taking a chance.
Yeah,
it's somebody that I ended up. It sucks because I ended up drafting him, and I didn't start him week 1. So then, of course, you start him week 2 because he had a monster game and he doesn't do anything. So it's one of those things where coming into a second year, I would be hesitant to go over Miles Sanders just because I agree with what you said about Sanders. They're going to ride him into the ground knowing that they're probably not going to make any real effort to bring him back. And they'll probably let him test the market next year unless he's a flat out stud. We know what it is with running backs. Unless you're superior, you're not getting a big contract. Teams aren't switching out for you. You're not getting signed on the first day of free agency. You're not a position of prime because there's in all these drafts now, you can go find these guys.
I agree. All right, one last position I want to just mention real quick here, and then we'll go over to the Sixers. And I'm going to say it's the quarterback. You already mentioned Hurts, but really I am very intrigued for the first time in a lot of years to see a young kid. I'm really interested in seeing this kid, Carson Strong. Out in Nevada, he was, touted as maybe a top 2 or 3 quarterback going into last year's draft. The injuries have really taken a toll on him. His mobility kind of lacks. Last time I saw him play out there, he had like 2 huge knee braces on. But the kid's got heart. That is just not questioned at all. And the kid's got an arm. He's got a cannon. So I'll be really interested to see because I don't know how in this world in this day you can keep 3 quarterbacks anymore.
Right.
And if he shows off well, he doesn't stay on a practice squad. So I'll be interested because otherwise they do what they did at the end of the last preseason. They dump off Minshew.
Right.
Like that, the way they got him. Right.
Yeah. Right. They find somebody that's quarterback needy. I mean, I think they're going to make Minshew look as good as they possibly can and hope that people see it. And, injuries always happen. Somebody goes down. They need a serviceable backup. they got him for what, a 6th-round pick? Maybe they'll probably flip him
Yeah.
for a 3rd.
You think
Probably.
you can get that much for him?
Yeah. I mean, remember, there was a time in our lifetime, AJ Feely garnered us what, a 2nd-round pick?
Yeah. Yeah, but he was starting the year before. No, I agree. That was with
No,
Miami
but
in the sixth.
remember, Minshew had, he had a good run with Jacksonville. It's not like, he's never done anything. He had some, good moments. I mean, you could, kind of fleece people with what he did against the Jets and say, look, this is a guy who, is going to, if you have a decent team, is going to win you some games. Not going to take you to the divisional round of the playoffs, but he'll keep you around, or he'll keep you afloat while, if you have a guy who's looking to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would be interested in seeing Minshew move on, and
I like Minshew, but if
Carson Strong looked well.
Well, here's the thing. When you look at it, future-wise, say Hurts does not pan out. When you look at Minshew and Strong, who has the more realistic chance of a future? Strong.
Yes.
Just because, like Minshew, we know what Minshew is. He's a run-of-the-mill, get you a couple wins when you need it.
His arm strength is really what holds him back.
Right.
I love his game, but he can't make some of the throws. He just can't.
Right. At one point, Strong was a mid to late 1st, 2nd-round talent.
Yep.
That's what he was.
Yep.
And it's just injuries that hold him back. If he can get it together, I mean, there's always the possibility of being a, gem.
But isn't that what makes this training camp and preseason pretty, I'll say fun in a way, when you do have that like kind of gem back there as a 3rd quarterback. I mean, we can watch Minshew get excited, but we got that other guy too. So it'll actually keep my focus going. I think, what is it now? They play 3 preseason games. They cut one out of the schedule. Yeah. So, we're getting there. At least football's back. I worked down near the stadiums, driving through there. Yesterday, they just reported today was the first official practice, but a lot of juice, a lot of cars, a lot of people hanging out around the trees trying to catch a glimpse. When I drove by today, I saw Rita's water ice truck pulling out of there, as well as the chickens and pizza. I think that the guys were eating good. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, they already, N'Kobe Dean had to get, as his rookie hazing, he had to get everybody there. He was walking around with a tray of Rita's.
Oh, that was for him then.
he had to dole it out. Yeah.
Oh, dole it out. Oh, that's good.
He was serving everybody.
Good. Well, it's good the boys are back. We're less than 50 days away from the NFL season kicking off, and Eagles open this year.
I'll be more excited when we get closer. I'm just, like I said, I want to actually see some play, but it's really not going to be until the first week of the season, where I really just want to see what Jalen does. It's, that's where I'm at. I can't.
They said he zipped a few into Quest today. He also missed a few, but that's what I like to hear, zip. But again, I don't take a lot of stock into what I hear from people, because they have their own agendas. Yeah.
Right.
All right, let's move on to our last team to tackle this week, and that is the Philadelphia 76ers. There are other rumors out there, still circling about, Durant. Even Boston's dipping into it now, and, Spider's going to move, I think, eventually. But what the Sixers have done is, they've set their position of what they're going to be this year. James Harden, as documented before, pretty much came out and said it. He's like, hey, Daryl, I'll take whatever you got left. You go do what you got to do, spend what you got to do. I'll take the leftover. I'll take the change at the table. And while that is, definitely commendable, I mean, he's still making almost $30 million a year. So, I mean, it's not like it was scraps.
Yeah, I mean, look, he got a 2-year deal. The second year's a player option of like 38 mil. I think this is 33 or 35 this year. It's not as big as people thought it was going to be, but here's the thing. It's one of those like, all right, well, let's see how this season pans out. If I play well for you, going back to the board, we're going back to the negotiation table.
I agree. He'll opt out, and then you go back with a 2 or 3 year one. Yep. It's fair.
2 or 3 at like $40-50 million a year. It's good and bad. I mean, it's good because it, at least they have a real shot this year. They were able to improve their team.
Yeah, they really were.
Free agency.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There are a few names still out there, and I think they do have a couple bucks left, but I'm not sure what much more they're going to do because they really did make a lot of moves where they're going to have to figure out some stuff at training camp. But
yeah,
with that said, I think if we hear anything else, it's going to be minimal. Are you hearing anything else on the other big fronts in the NBA? Like I said, Boston has come out lately.
I've heard that with the Boston thing, that was actually from a couple weeks ago, and it just got leaked out now.
Okay.
So they were saying, Jaylen Brown came out and said, look, this is where I want to be. I think for whatever reason that got out, whether it's negotiations to try and force somebody else's hand. Here's the thing. I mean, this one is tough because, the price is so high for this. That's just unattainable. Like they're like, yeah, we want to trade Durant, but we want to do it on our terms. Well, I get it. Like, I know you want to get the most, but your terms are kind of insane at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think we said it from day one. He's going to be a Brooklyn Net come at least training camp. And if it's training camp, he's probably a Brooklyn Net at least into November. And then we saw with the Ben Simmons, we became astute with what happens with trades. Guys that sign new contracts or guys that
are not eligible until
December
15th. Right.
Yeah. So, one of the key ones to look at is obviously DeAndre Ayton. The Suns look like they had a whole package, but when he goes out and does the sign and trade and then it has to get matched, he just becomes that guy that can't get touched till December 15th, like you said. So, I just think I think it takes too much to try and make this work for the Nets. I think they're willing to hold back and let it. Hopefully, he just comes and plays, or they take that risk. I just don't see it being done before the season. I
don't either. No.
Could you see Kyrie going? I could.
That's more realistic. The situation there, though, is, I mean, I'm guessing we're still talking about Lakers here at this point. I know that
who else would want that?
Trying to say that, we want Westbrook to be the guy. He still has all this juice and blah, 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 blah. Maybe that's just to garner the Nets. I don't know, but is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, and I just don't. Well, it's not even as much as Westbrook. But yes, that's what I'm thinking, mainly because LeBron, and I don't think there's anybody out there that can manage or deal with the Kyrie show. But I think LeBron knows he can.
Right.
So I who wants to put up with, the ebbs and flows that he puts on a team? Because it really is what damaged Brooklyn last year. And it really is why Harden wanted out. And it really is now probably why KD wants out too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just time to move on.
Yeah. But, the only other thing I saw that I thought was interesting before we cut out here, I wanted to get your take. A guy that's grown up, loved basketball as much as you have, and much as I have. I saw Draymond Green come out, what was it, today or yesterday, on a podcast. Was watching the 96 NBA Finals, Bulls Jazz, and said they would smoke the Bulls and they would beat the Jazz by at least 20 or 30 every game.
Yeah.
I want to get your take of what you thought of that, because I definitely have a hard opinion on it.
Yeah, I probably don't have as hard opinion on it, but it's just tough. To me, it's always tough when you go back and forth between different styles of play.
Mm-hmm. And different errors. I get it.
Different errors. I think it's tough because the obviously a different factor here is Jordan, because Jordan's just a freak in his own. But like, I don't know. Sometimes I look at the stuff that Steph does, and like when they were at their prime and just hitting shots left and right, I mean, you literally would have to start tackling them every time. So I actually think that Warriors would have a legit chance to really take it to them. I don't know.
Yeah, see, I think they have no shot against the Bulls. Maybe that's just because me growing up and seeing how good the Bulls were, and every time they were pushed a little bit, that made them even tougher. I just there's nobody like Jordan could shut down Steph. He was taller, and he would take those challenges. He wasn't like LeBron. Jordan would play the best player on the other team, and then Pippen, he goes against Clay or someone else, and what answers do they have after that? And I mean, Draymond's not a scorer. Rodman would just get in his head and make him get 2 T's out of the game. Like he's out of his mind. And then to think to belittle the Jazz like that, I thought the Jazz were just so good. Karl Malone was amazing. And again, the athleticism's changed these days. I get it, but to even look back, the Warriors of 2016 era. Okay, maybe we can talk about it.
And that's more what I'm thinking. Like, I know he's talking about present day. Yeah, give me the Warriors that beat the Cavs. Give me them.
Yeah. Yep. And look, I think the Warriors beat one good team in the playoffs this year, and that was the Celtics. I did like Memphis, don't get me wrong, but when
Morant goes out,
that's it.
The dynamic of the series.
Yeah, and then I mean Denver was trash. We can all admit that. So, and then their last series they didn't get to play Phoenix. So, playing a weak Dallas team like that. Yeah, no, come on, man.
I think going back to the 16 team, like that era for the Warriors, their ball movement before they even rose up to as high as they were, Steve Kerr had them. Their ball movement, I think, set them apart from other teams. They were a team that always constantly moved without the ball, and they could do it in different ways, and they were shifty. And then, they all committed to running their pick and rolls and their sets and everything like that. And the ball movement was just so fluid. That's why I think that they would have a chance. I think they just find ways to rub off screens and picks, and I think it's fair. I just once again, I will say this with pure and confidence. Draymond Green is lucky to be a Warrior. He is absolutely.
He is a nice piece that glues them together, challenges them. He's a winner, but that boy, he's not that good. Like, and I don't mean the word boy, but that dude is not that good.
Now he thinks he deserves a max 4-year max contract. Dude, he's Denzel Valentine. Like, they're both Michigan State guys. Both kind of team. And Denzel Valentine really didn't amount to much of anything. He's decent, a bench role player, but that's Draymond on any other team before Steph is Denzel Valentine.
Yeah, no, 100%. But he's out there. He's making some news. He's definitely
he's got the gigs. He's made the shake. You're right. He is absolutely lucky to be a Golden State Warrior.
And he is. And but he's trying to get that money, and good for him. I'm not going to hate anything on it. But I'll tell you this much. I ain't going to hate on a winning Wednesday either. It was good. Another good show tonight. Action-packed hour here, talking all kinds of Philly sports and so much more. That's why we get into all these other little tangents and segments here about things going on in the sports world. But we will be back next week to start breaking down the Eagles preseason, their first week in camp, and their projected first game as they come up ready to play their first preseason game shortly here. I think they're 12 days away from that. So and the Phillies coming out of the break, coming out of the All-Star break, and then coming with the trade deadline. We'll have a ton going on next week. Can't wait.
We'll have a lot to talk about on Wednesday night. I really do in regards to the deadline. So that's my question. I think they're gonna be active.
I love it. And there's gonna be a lot of teams active, and it's gonna make things really interesting for the home stretch in baseball. Which, if you remember the days back in 08, 09, 07, baseball in September can be so much fun around here. Really it's going to be this year. I feel it. So until next week, I'm Dave. That's Mark. We're Fourth and Go. We're here.